grade on the ramp is ADA compliant. It's incredibly steep. Ms. White and I both noticed that, and why we thought of that is when we redid Lincoln, their parking lot, we had to regrade their entrance because it was too steep, and that's very, very steep for someone in a wheelchair. So we did have a little bit of a concern about that for accessibility reasons.
And what we had talked about, if we go this route, that I would visit again with Mr. Bugatti and Mr. Woodard, and we would go through everything. And the landlord is prepared and expects us to come in with some things that we need, and that would be something that we would suggest to them, that they take care of. Thank you. All right, moving along. That's the interior. So when you come in the front door, right where you just were, there are elevators. Oh, I'm looking at it backwards. Okay, so it's to the right of us, on the right, this way. So that's the front entrance. You come in and you go to, it would be going to your left for the elevators right there. So it's very accessible. There are stairs should you choose to walk them. I believe my colleagues are mocking me for my sense of direction. I'm sensing it. And you'd be right. All right. So advantages to leasing. Just some things that we had brainstormed. Again, the landlord handles all of our maintenance and the repairs to the building. So all the things that we just heard about at Roberts, meaning roof, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, something goes wrong, we don't have to deal with it, which for us in managing aging buildings is a dream come true, because we have so many things that we know go wrong on a regular basis that we have to address. We also would have no groundskeeping, snow removal, lawn care. Right now, we pay a lot of overtime for some of that work, especially if we have a bad winter. We also recognize that this meets the architect's recommended space, as I mentioned earlier, that it's the exact amount of space that we need, which is really nice. All utilities are included in our price of the $12 a square foot. All of those are included. They have offered us internet and phone, but we have said that we will do our own phone system, and I'll show you that cost in just a moment. But the internet and phone, we would just take over for security reasons and just probably our infrastructure feeling better about that. But a lot of that would be covered by E-rate, but we would have some monthly charges to that. Other advantages, the sidewalks are heated, and so that keeps them clear. Mr. Bugatti drove by in the winter just to see if they were true to their words. All paths in the parking lot were cleared. They have extensive security in place with key card entry, and all the entry points are locked at all times. As I mentioned, it was a medical facility, mental health. It was a home for behaviorally challenged children. So security is of utmost importance, and so we felt very good that it was very secure. There are maintenance personnel on site, 2 of them. They have work orders, a management system that if we need work done, we submit work orders, which is also very nice. We don't have to have our own maintenance folks on site. The auditorium that you saw is approximately 2,800 square feet, and we've talked about it, and we certainly know that it's an option for some shared use, maybe that we could probably get for free if we just use it occasionally, but if we wanted it, we would either negotiate it in or have to pay for the square footage on that. The custodial cleaning is offered for standard office tenants. So again, we would have them probably do, we talked about them coming into our offices, and there were some concerns about them actually physically going in, but if at the end of the night we put our waste baskets out, they empty them, the trash, they'll do all the bathrooms, they'll do all the common areas, clean the lounge areas, etc. But if we chose to, you'll see in my next slide, if we want to have a part-time custodian come there and do some cleaning on occasion, we would foot that bill. But again, as I mentioned, $12 a square foot, including all utilities, is really a very amazing price, and many realtors that I have spoken with have concurred that this really is a good deal, if you will. The location is easily accessible off Route 8. I know that not everybody comes from Route 8. Our employees do on occasion, or we do take Route 8, but it's also situated by Price in Preston, so it's pretty easy to get to. It's a little weird, as you know, that little turn is a little strange, and it wouldn't be surprised you to know that I passed it the first time. Yes, I know, you all believe it. True story, Joe's calling me in the morning to say, oh, you missed the turn, boss. Yep, not surprising.
You can come the back way too, up the one way and around.
That's true.
That's what true.
I may
true
have
insider.
explored that accidentally. All right, been all around this town, don't you worry, I've been down every nook and cranny, by accident mostly. All right, so our professional setting, we just feel that, again, it's kind of the difference between Roberts, that if you're in a building that is certainly run down and aesthetically it is a professional setting. There are a lot of offices, as you saw, and again, that fresh paint, flooring, they're gonna do all of that, which is a nice new look, as opposed to going into a little bit of a space that needs, as we know, a lot of work. And so there are conference rooms available, which is nice. There's professional development opportunity spaces should we take advantage of the, particularly the auditorium there, but there are some larger rooms that are nice for collaboration. And the one thing that I know my team had really appreciated was just the amount of privacy. So if you've been in our offices upstairs, there's no privacy. Mine is actually probably the best just because I'm off. But even then, I hear the people behind me, they can hear me. But all of those who are on top of each other, I'm in their office, I can hear exactly what the person next door is saying. And we have sensitive, things that we have to talk about. So they would appreciate the privacy they've already shared. We also would appreciate the opportunity to move in the summer, and the reason being is that we have a lot of work ahead of us, and we know that we have to be moving soon enough because the building is coming, it's going to be ready, and I am fearful that moving central office in or around the same time of the building itself. I have been through this process before, and I know the work it entails. And I fear that not much else of the work for my folks will get done because we're going to be always working on this. So if we have the opportunity to get in, to get settled, we also can use our current offices for, like, if we need staging area for the move, we can use that and shuffle things into our spaces while we vacate. And we talked about maybe doing it in phases, whereas in the summer, my office, for example, that's my downtime. But it's also a busy time for HR. Treasurer's office, they need it their pace, so we can phase that move in. All right, next, looking at the cost savings. So again, these are as close as what we know today. So if we look at the square footage by what he has quoted us at $12 a square foot, the cost, Marissa calculated, was $164,000, and again,
Does that include the auditorium?
No, it does not, So you'd have to add 2,800 square feet. I think I came up to like $36,000, something like that, if you include the auditorium. And again, I would use that as a negotiation myself. But the custodial costs, should we choose to have them, for a part-time person, I put in about $35,000. That's should we choose to have someone come over and clean for a couple of hours. The internet and phone costs, they are combined. Ryan has done some work on this for me. Those are a combined cost, and year one, because we have to do a little bit of work to prepare it, is $18,000. But thereafter, we will pay $186 a month, which is only $1,300 a year, and we know that we get assistance from E-rate on a lot of our stuff. So year one is $217,000 a year, but $200,000 approximately annually. Again, that's as we've discussed here today, without any type of negotiation for us or against us, if you will. So we don't know what that would look like. Now, if we look at Roberts, and now we know that it's 75,000 square feet. And so one of the biggest concerns, thoughts for me, is that it is 6 times the amount of space that we need. Now, with that said, could we use the downstairs for alternative schools, family resource centers? We certainly could. But they're not in the condition to just say, okay, here's a great room that's going to work for such and such. We would have to put in some work into those spaces. But we would probably, again, be upstairs, and we would have just enough room for everyone. We could have a nice professional development space in the library. And Abby came up with this thought kind of after a while. We were talking about it, but it would be nice maybe if registration were downstairs. So we would occupy some space there. There's some built-in offices already in the office area. But again, it would be a little disjointed, sort of, but again, workable. The other, I'm gonna skip the next one, but we would need a FTE as a full-time equivalent of a cleaner. But that person, if we had one person to clean all of Roberts, we realistically would only be able to clean the space that we occupy. One person couldn't clean the entire building. So spot checking every so often on the first floor. But there's the salary with benefits. That's about what that would cost us. And then part-time groundskeeper, because we're still going to have to maintain all of the grounds, the snow removal, the lawn care. We also are responsible with the bridge there, that right now currently our custodian snow plows. And so with that, it's about 200, so you're right in the same ballpark as what it costs to lease, 200,000. The utilities alone, I don't know if I even said that, I'm sorry, I must switch over that. The utilities alone are $121,000, I'm sorry, I skipped right over that, for Roberts. So to maintain that, would it be less? Probably, because if we're only occupying part of it, but you still are heating it all, you know, but maybe not as many lights on, for example. Water would probably be less because not all students are using it, etc. But we still will incur those other costs. Where I believe we would realize the savings is the cost to maintain an aging building. You know, I get regular calls from Mr. Bugatti, like, this building, there's a leak, we have flooding, we have leaks in the roof, we have whatever that last thing was with the pipes that we had to spend $5,000 a day to pipe in heat while we fixed, you know, the ductwork or whatever. I mean, it was just something that's always occurring, and that we can't determine.
What year was Roberts built?
68.
Yeah, 68.
I mean, I understand that we're saying that we won't owe all these costs for the 405 Talmadge Road building, but it was built in 72, so it's not like it's some great building that's gonna be nice and not be leaking on you and having all these problems. I mean,
Yeah, the
we're
plus
talking
is
about
we
a
don't think about it.
68 building versus a 72
Yeah.
building. I understand you're talking
Yeah.
about the cost, but
Well, it's not only the cost too, but it's also the resources, personnel, right, our manpower. So those folks that have been dedicated, that would be pulled off whatever they're doing, have to go and right to this emergency, if it's our own people, in some instances it is. So there's also that we don't have to worry about. And again, it's all the protections would be in the lease. I don't, you know, is it like you have so much time to fix this, or, you know, I'm sure there are ways in which we would have some guarantee that it's on them to do. Do you remember, Joe, when they did the roof, did he tell you anything about the roof there?
No, but that's an investment for a property owner like that.
Yeah.
You don't leave an investment like that go and not do upkeeps like roofs, you know, doors, windows and stuff like that. I think this gentleman's really been on top of everything, and we know, according to him, that the facility is paid for. One thing I would like to mention is, and I have that down as concerns, Mr. Gomez, to ask him about the roof. And the slope, as far as ADA, I believe that's grandfathered in. Laws change, they don't make you go back and change the slope, as far as I know, but that's another question I have for engineer at GPD I'm working with. Andy will let me know that. But those are two concerns I know that you have that I'm going to ask questions on. But I think a big thing that we're missing here is, and I probably should have done more homework and got with Christie, what costs we have spent over the last year at repairing control systems, HVAC systems, the dollars we have spent in maintenance, just not preventive maintenance, everyday maintenance with something breaking, roofs leaking and stuff like that. That's tens of thousands of dollars, I can tell you, at least this past year. Tens of thousands added to that 121. Not a utility, but it's a maintenance repair that we've done. Controls have been horrendous there lately. The rooftop units have been terrible. I'm talking heating and air conditioning. And if it's something you'd like, I'm sure I could get with Christie and we could figure what that last year, a picture of that last year looked like.
Okay, and then I think, is there one more? Yeah. So, you know, we can't just stop there. I mean, I think we have to address the future of Roberts School. We'll get that question from the community. The board should be posing that question. I always try to be a forward thinker and try to anticipate these things anyway. I think it all is part of the equation. So to me, I see two options for Roberts. We either sell it or we save it for a future site, meaning we build on the elementary, we build an elementary on there. Certainly, the third option would be that we keep central office there forever, right? And then you would want to put all that money that you saw in there if you're thinking long, long term. If we sell the property, the advantages are there's obviously no building to maintain, right? We would generate some revenue because we would sell it and make some profit. The use of the building, again, I'm assuming, I did not do this, but I'm guessing it's zoned for school, and then if there's a developer that wants to come in, it would have to be changed to zoning to residential. The bridge has been a question that has come up by a couple board members regarding the, what that would do to a future buyer. I was able to speak to, I got some information from the city as well as our realtor, and it's the best I could do. Sorry, it's just not my area, but I tried to do the best I could to answer some of your questions. What I've learned is that by law, the bridge now comes over and it comes into a path. It would have to continue to be lead to an access point, meaning a street or a sidewalk. Now, what Marissa had said from a real estate standpoint, that could be a great attraction to a developer. It might not be to another one. So there's she said a lot of ifs in that. There is some, the bridge it's kind of, as it was described to me, a little bit complicated because there's federal money, there's Ohio that's involved, there's Cuyahoga Falls that's involved in some of the maintenance. They're redoing it and renovating it in 25. So there's some work to be done there. So it really is hard to say, would that be a deterrent for someone to buy? It could be very desirable to someone that it leads over to Silver Lake. You're leading over to a nice area that could be, a nice, desirable for a developer depending on what they would envision. And that's just assuming a development would go in. I have no idea. I can't say that would be the case, but that's just my assumption. And then it eliminates the con is that it eliminates one option for a future site. However, and I didn't realize this until recently when we were digging a little deeper. Abby had said it's 7 point. I said, well, what is the acreage just on Roberts itself? And that really surprised me that it's only 7.5. With that information, that actually eliminates Roberts as a future site. Now we're going to show you, does it work? Yes, but Abby's going to explain that further in just a second. We have sites that are bigger. Price, for example, is 8.5 acres. So that's actually bigger. We know that we have Preston, Richardson, and Sill are all over 10 acres. Abby will tell you that they recommend to have a minimum of 10 acres for a building similar to what we would build. So she'll share that with you, and you would believe her more than me anyway, because this is what she does. I just play one on TV. I just play one for the board. A realtor, an engineer, an architect, whatever you need. I'm supposed to change my hat. So again, that would sort of, while it might eliminate, we do have other options, I guess is what my point is. We do have, as she mentioned, it was in your, did you put that in there? Yes, you did. So when you saw the drawing of the 7.5, and then you saw this bigger site where the little Bearcats play in that stadium, I'm going there tomorrow, by the way, to
Not
check it out.
Bearcats.
Black Tiger.
Oh my gosh, Freudian slip. That's not the first time I've done that either. I know. Lucas, you're firing me. Certainly not Little Bearcats, but we did have Little Bearcats. Little Black Tigers. They play over there. That's actually a larger parcel than ours. Now, in the future, if we were to do something, we would have to have a land swap with the city, in my opinion, to gain some property across the street. Even then, I'll just save it for her. She knows, she could explain it better. But it's not the most ideal site, in my opinion. But so then, saving it for future site, if we do that, we would have to continue to maintain the building. Certainly, being responsible neighbors. So if we don't use it and we lease, we would have a vacant building, and we all know that this board does not want to have vacant buildings, so we would want to be a good neighbor and not have a vacant building. We have to ask ourselves, and I already addressed this, is the site big enough, and we'd need a land swap. And then I threw this in here, but not necessarily relevant, keeping the building as central office and investing millions of dollars in a lifespan of 5 to 8 years, meaning if we use it for a future site of an elementary building and we're only there for 5 to 8 years, 8 to 10, 5 to 10, we don't know what that number is once the buildings are built, that we would put all this money, or at least some money, even if it's not the 8 million, maybe it's 4 million, 5 million, that only to demolish it if it's going to be a future site. But if you hang on to it for the future, for beyond, then it's not as, it's not as astounding of a number to So,
Dr. Selick, I just actually did a real quick math figure in my head. If we, right now, it's saying 8.5 million, roughly 8.5 million would need put into Roberts. Let's just say we got that down to 7 million and we never had to put another penny into it. It would take us 30 years to break even. If you were to say $200,000 operating cost,
okay.
versus the lead, we
Spoken
would have to
from
stay
a
there
true loan
30.
officer.
We would have to stay there 30 years and not spend any more money for
Yeah.
it to make sense. I
Yes,
guess
I'm
is what
following you.
trying to say.
Yes, you're right. It is, yeah.
Just one more quick question though about this. I know that we have the anticipation of creating like a resource center in the future.
Yes.
Without Roberts, do we have the ability to still do that with our existing facilities?
I believe we do. I mean, one thing is we haven't looked at our new facility in and of itself. I mean, I don't know if there'd be a new room in our 612 campus. We have designated a room at Cheney. Again, it's not the most glamorous, but it's not a bad location for people to get to. That's where we sort of left it. Should we entertain that auditorium, we could, I was trying to find a way that we could like maybe divide it and use part of the space and part of it for PD, which is probably feasible. This is the auditorium in the possible of the lease building. The only thing that I don't love about that is when we asked about, if you recall, I asked about where those doors led, and it was like to nowhere, right? So you couldn't come in off of the parking lot and get in. So those people would have to go through, and down the hallway and to get to us, which we can do. So we do have that option as well. Anything else for me at this time? I'm certainly, you know where to find me. I'll be right next to Mr.
So if we would do this, this summer, we would still be paying the maintenance costs on Roberts while the kids are there. Okay, yeah, because we'd have to keep it up while they're there. Okay.
And if the air conditioning goes down this summer,
Yeah, we go without.
Yeah.
I mean, we do what we can if it's gonna go down completely. I mean, these are always difficult things because we know we've been doing this for years. And in my other districts, we did the same thing. We put Band-Aid, 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 Band-Aid until you come to a point, do you invest? We're not gonna put $3.5 million into Roberts if the air breaks tomorrow, if that were what we had to do. Of course, that's the worst case scenario because we're leaving it in a year. But those are like really hard decisions to make because where do you draw the line in investing in an aging building when you know you're moving out of it? So certainly, if we knew that we were going to stay at Roberts, like if the children were going to continue to stay there, I would be coming with my list of recommendations to this board, which I already have. We've already talked about the condition of the building. I would be painting it. I would be, looking at a number of things there. But we're not staying there, and unfortunately, we're doing the best we can to just keep it.
I think unfortunately, we haven't even put Band-Aids on some things at Roberts. We've left gaping wounds, and that's all I'll say for now.
Well, that's a shame if we have. I mean, I think you all know how I feel about providing safe, warm, aesthetically pleasing buildings to our children because that's what they deserve. Okay, I will have Abby, if you can just do the last slide, and I'll just take a seat and answer from there. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you. I couldn't come here tonight and not draw something. But, okay, so Robert's site, it's what we've been talking about all night. We generally, again, we know you're not there thinking about the next phase, but just in theory, we said, okay, let's say you're gonna need one of a few elementary schools there in the future, because we're thinking about, all right, what do we do with this site in the future? So we did a test fit. It's just a concept. We call it a fit plan often, and it's really a proof of a concept on a site. It's not a building design by any means, but we just know that, okay, let's say you're gonna have a third of your students on this site in the future. Again, just an assumption. That would be 667 students. It yielded about an 85,000 square foot building. And so we did this test. We know that the building could come down first because the students are going to be in the new campus. So we didn't have to worry about fitting it on with an existing building and all of that good kind of stuff. So what you see in the tan shape is the proposed, fit of a new building, and then we fit in the recommended amount of parking spaces for that building, and you'll see we had to kind of stretch it along Charles Street and then take up an existing, little bit of green space that's there for the remainder of the parking. We were able to just sneak barely a bus loop kind of back and behind. And then there was just enough room for a playground for that amount of students. So again, for this size of building, around 85,000 square feet, we generally look for a bigger site. We talked about 10 acres, as a nice minimum. So does this work technically? We could fit it. We could fit it on there. Some of the concerns we had from a planning standpoint is just that there's going to be potentially a third of the district maybe sending their kids here. So when you think about pickup and drop off, we generally think a better candidate for a site has more access from maybe multiple roads on either side. Certainly the dead end condition that's kind of there now is not ideal. For little kids particularly, we generally like to, in addition to the playground, provide an open green space. So whether that's a size of about a softball field, or even sometimes we like to fit like a practice football field or half a practice football field just for open green space. So we don't really have that ability here. And so that's another concern, is that we're kind of jamming everything on the site. The other thing is, while we didn't go through a full building design by any means, you can see that we kind of had to stretch that building out, so that long skinny wing that kind of comes up and looks like a number 7 at the top, that would be a 2-story academic wing, and the shape of that is more like a double loaded corridor, so a center corridor with classrooms on either side. And just knowing a little bit about how you plan for your new facility and some of the ways that you're moving with curriculum and education, I don't know that you have a lot of flexibility to explore other floor plans that might, like say in the future you wanted to do grade level pods or small learning communities. This might limit you from that standpoint. And so those are just high level observations about testing it. Technically you could make it work, but I don't think it would fall into a site that we would recommend when you have other options. So that was just the purpose of this, was to just think about it in the future. So that's what we did. Any other questions?
Sure. I was just gonna say thank you for compiling so much data. I know as being part of this long process, it was, started with, can you give us this? And then, but now we need this. Now we thought of this. Can you give us numbers on this? Like, we kept asking for more things, and at the end of the day, you over-delivered, even though we asked for so much. So,
well, thanks.
thank you.
That's how all of this goes, right? You start with one question and then you find more questions. So we were happy to be able to help out. And I never thought I'd ever reference a book as much as I reference If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. But that's kind of what happens. Like, you ask a question and then you uncover what you need next. So it was our pleasure to be able to help, and so thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abby.
For sure.
And if we don't see you before, we'll see you with the GPD group when we put out future RFI for our K-5 building process.
Oh, well, thank you. I was going to point to, I saw the Top Tiger sign in the corner.
She really
Yeah.
wants one.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Mrs. Hausman for a run-through of our math refresher.
Thank you, President Gomez, Vice President Coco, board members, Dr. Selico, Mrs. Stoikoi, community, and colleagues for having me here tonight. So maybe a few board meetings ago, I had shared that through the initial phase that we were looking at, that we landed here, because we knew we have to go through another literacy kind of refresh and update with the new legislation. And we also know that our math scores and our students have been doing well under Envision. And when we were looking at some of the other products, the academic rigor we were not seeing in some of the other products. And so we brought everyone back together. We had teacher surveys, and we landed on doing the refresh with Savas Envision. So this is kind of just a quick overview, what it looks like in the different grades. And this was refreshed for 24, just so you know. What's really nice about the refresh is the lesson plan format is what the teachers use now. So they don't have to have a brand new foundational template when they teach, which I think is really nice because we're making other changes in other areas. And I think this will feel, I don't want to say comfortable in where they're set in their ways, but in a good way, because we know that this model has been working. And when you look at the hook, it focuses on the prediction, the brainstorming. The second part is about modeling, how they're solving problems, and then of course, the reasoning and validation for their solutions. Then the next section, this talks about the really important part of even our teacher clarity work when you think of learning progressions. And so again, the program does a really nice job of saying where the students are, where they were before, and where they're going. I think that really helps teachers when they're looking at standards-based instruction, and also when they have to close gaps for students, understand what became before, and for our students who are gifted and talented and need to be pushed and stretched, this also gives them some experiences for our teachers. Here, this aligns with the key shifts that they have in mathematics, right? So when you see those changes in the mathematical key shifts, this perfectly aligns. Savas has worked a lot with the state of Ohio when it comes to understanding how to align their product with what we're doing, even though it is a national company. This is not an Ohio book, right? But they do understand those shifts. And so they have those key areas from conceptual understanding to applications. Whoop. Excuse me. Also, the 8 mathematical practice has been around for a really long time, right? So those came out with the Common Core standards many, many years ago. And so when the teachers and students are going through their lessons, those 8 mathematical practices are aligned and highlighted for our teachers to, and our students to be able to use and understand. So that has not changed. In the program, there are ways to differentiate. So you're going to see 2 types of differentiation products. One is already in the program. So that is part of ongoing lessons, as well as their supplemental materials to help our students who need more intervention and support or reteaching. Oh, geez. Sorry, everybody. Okay.
Is there differentiation for gifted learners?
I was just gonna ask that.
Sorry, you know,
Yes, it's coming.
you've got this on our brains.
You bet. I got it. Thank you for asking it. I'm having a hard time mastering this right now. I will
Learn
tell
from
you.
Dr. Selicow
It's-
and just make Mr. Hutch do it for you.
Right?
He's got it mastered. He's very good at it.
No, it's okay. It's all right. I'm gonna get through it. So the part that I'm missing is there is also support for our English language learners, math vocabulary, and math and reading. So,
It's in here.
Yeah, so that's the slide that is not popping, and I'm just not gonna do it again. We're not gonna do 3rd time's a charm. We're just gonna go ahead and get through it. And then the next one is the professional development options. Companies have really improved their virtual PD options. We also have local reps that will come in and help us. Again, This is another bit of a cost savings. We don't have to layer in huge amounts of PD. We will offer it, but our focus is mostly going to be on the updated online template that's changed, as well as Success Maker, which I'm going to talk to you about as well. So we don't have to reteach how to teach the lesson. They know how to do that. So. Okay, so this is kind of what we'll be receiving. I think what's important we decided on a 3-year contract, because again, there's nothing being said right now at the state, but we also know they're convening a new math committee. They're convening new math intervention plans that we do in reading. Those will be instituted soon. And so we don't know if there will be new recommendations coming out in math, but we know that they're starting to dive into some of those research items. But our price is approximately $42.28 per student annually. So that's kind of what that price comes down to. Most of the teacher materials and things are gratis. So we worked on those. Oh, here we go. Okay. And then there's a assessment source book, and then the flexible assessment options, which are just different ways, whether it's formative assessment, summative assessment, ways that they can create their own assessments, draw on different types of questions on online databases. So these types of online supports, even manipulatives, are online as well for our students, which weren't before, so they can visually move blocks and things visually for our students, which is brand new as well. And then here's some other things. She's Louise. Okay, and then there is a Success Maker. This is where students will take kind of like a diagnostic assessment and place the child in an area where the program will generate where they are. And then the program assesses them and then moves them, whether you're a gifted learner or a child who is struggling in one area, and moves them along in content. So this is on top of the regular classroom experience. Now we're starting with grades 2 through 5, because we know at the kindergarten, first grade level, that type of students are on computers off by themselves can happen one-to-one, a few at a time, but not typically the whole class. So what we're going to do is we're going to give our kindergarten and first grade teachers the first year, let's see how things are going, because they have the whole online format to learn as well. And then if they want to add Success Maker, we're happy to do that in the future. We're very worried, though, if we spend that money now, it may not be used right away, and then it will kind of sit there. That's just knowing primary teachers. We talk to all the principals, we talk to them about it, and we think that we can just wait just a year and see, and then we would just do a separate contract for that if we see the need for it. But a lot of the programming, we think, is really going to help moving into more of the intermediate grades, because this is in addition to their regular 90-minute math block.
So would this typically get assigned out, like, how would this be used? Would
So it could be
used
like a
more
station, like
Okay.
a station teaching. It could maybe be some homework assignments possibly, enrichment opportunities. So different times during the week or the day. I don't see it like a lab experience for all the children, but what makes it difficult with Success Maker, it's not a seat that you buy, so if I begin the process, that license is attached to me as a student. We don't have the flexibility to flex seats with this program. So,
Can I ask a question also?
of course.
I was following along at the family engagement portal
Yeah.
included, and it says easily translates using Google Translate for 100+
Yes.
languages. Are
Nepali is.
so many
good
of our
note.
languages are included.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
And even some of our rare ones are, because like I know when Dr. Selk and I visited Silver Lake earlier this year, like one of our rarer languages, Mr. Dolka was using it to communicate with the family, so Google Translate's really helpful.
That's nice.
There's a sign-in and so forth if you want to just kind of get in there and dabble. We also have some print copies for you to look at. Here are the local districts that use Envision, so we're in good company. And this is just a sampling. There's many more, to be honest. It's a very popular program. And
So
then,
these school districts are, like, they're different types of school districts.
yes.
It's not
Yep.
like all like urban or
Right,
rural,
right.
it's
Correct.
it's a
It's a mix.
mix.
Really diverse.
It
Yeah.
is. And like I said, this is just a sampling. The actual list is actually much longer.
Mm.
And then tomorrow, Christine and I worked on today, we're sending out a parent square message to our parents in K-5. We have a 3-week review, so we'll have the books and materials up in teaching and learning. If someone can't make the stairs, of course, we'll accommodate them downstairs. And we'll have an online computer where they can take a Google survey and give us feedback on the program. Or if they just have questions or want to see something specific, we can sit down and go through the product with them under DEW's requirements for parent review. So there's 4 areas that they can request, and we have to do that in a timely manner. But this also would give us any feedback if there is a concern. I think what's nice is this is not a controversial purchase, like sometimes math can be, because we're just building off of a program we're already using. Now, if we were, switching it up and doing something more dramatic, then obviously this type of adoption would feel different, I think. So, questions?
I really like the fact that on the lesson format, and if they're doing that now, I appreciate it, because they're making predictions and the reflection especially, which could be writing, and I think it's very important to write across the curriculum. Ever since I've been on the board, I've been talking about that. So I do like those features. That is, I think, really nice, because it goes along with the higher order thinking skills and so on. I like the fact that it differentiates instruction and it does focus on higher order. There was something else. Reason abstractly and quantitatively. And although I don't like numbers, it's reasoning, and that's good. And construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others. That's excellent, because we know they're going to have to write those argumentative essays when they get older, and they should be doing it now. Even little kids can argue, that's for sure, as parents we know. So I do appreciate that very much. The other thing that I really liked was the pre-assessment, all that, but the self-assessment. I brought an article with me that I'll read, and it talks about giving students control over their learning and how that affects their mental health. And so I really like the fact, again, that could be written, and take a look at that as well. I think it's really interesting. I do like the EL, the fact that Google can translate. That is just amazing to me. And so
they really developed a very...
there's really some good things in here that I really appreciate.
They really developed a deeper relationship with Google in this platform. So that's what's pretty innovative about it. And so we're excited to kind of see what that looks like in the classroom. So I think that will be the biggest change for teachers, is that online version of this. And I trust our teachers when they were coming back looking at some of the other products, and they said, we just don't think the academic rigor is there, and they were worried about changing. And I said, okay, well, if we're worried, let's just maybe settle right here then. And the majority were fine. A few loved a program here or there, and it met their needs, and you never make everyone 100% happy during an adoption. But we built consensus, and they can live with it, and that's what we said. It's not a 51% vote, it's a consensus decision, and we did land there, so.
Like Mrs. Schaefer said, I think that family engagement portal is going to be really great for our families to know that they have access to that. So I really look forward to us pushing that out at the appropriate times, because parents want the ability to be involved in their kids' education, and math is especially one of those areas where none of us fully understand all of this math because it's not the math we learned. And so if we can tell parents that there's a place that they can go that's going to help them a little bit in terms of understanding that, I think it's really going to be well utilized by a lot of families. So I think I'm really, really thrilled about that. And then the parent engagement piece, again, my guess is we won't get a lot of people, but I think they will truly appreciate just the fact that they're informed and able to be involved, even if they choose not to be. I think that matters so much to parents in my time on the board. Just the ability to be involved, even if they don't choose to be, but the ability to be involved in their child's education matters a lot to families. So I appreciate that. And then lastly, when do you need these back from us?
Whenever we have plenty.
So if we bring them back to the next board
Yeah,
meeting.
that's fine.
We get to take them home.
You can take
Yeah.
them home and just.
Well, I know we do like to flip through these and look at, like,
Yeah.
I know
Take yours to your
Thank
car, yeah.
I know we enjoy, I know we do enjoy, like,
Dragging it
getting
across
to
the
look at it, and I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
absolutely.
Any other questions, board members?
No, it's exciting.
Thank you
Okay.
so much,
Thank
All
Mrs.
right,
Hausman.
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
You were not voting on it.
Because it's in there as a, maybe it's just the background that I got in my minutes
Yeah, it's not,
that it came through.
I'll quit
because
looking
we
at
have to give
pictures of
parents
the,
opportunity. State law says parents have to have opportunity to give feedback before we can vote. Yeah, right. Yeah, we have to, we follow along here.
There we go.
Item E, Treasurer CFO's business consent agenda, Ms. Stoikoi.
I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education approve all items listed in the treasurer's consent agenda.
so moved.
Second?
Ms. Stoikoi?
Just a couple things, back here. Appropriations, I spoke to you guys about a few of these. Most of these, arise from some, adjustments to some of our federal grants. The other one, our auxiliary services received their final payment. We get payment for them 3 times a year from the state. February is the final one with the actual ADM count and the final amount. So, we needed to true that up a little bit there. And then, in all the cash, no cash for tournament sales and everything, we've gone back and forth over the last year a few times with, how we handle OHSAA tournaments, and as you know, we hosted one last week for the boys. And so previously, they came out of the O22 fund, kind of as a custodial fund. Then last year, when districts were cashless, they said we could just go back to running it through our regular athletic. And now that we're back to handling cash again, we're going back to O22. So we did not originally appropriate anything in the beginning of the year for that. So in order to handle the revenue and expenses for that tournament game, we needed to have an appropriation there.
Questions or comments from the board? I just wanted to thank Arby's for their very generous donation.
Yes.
I think, I don't know if this is all of what we're doing with it, but I know some of our buildings are using it for attendance incentives, so that's a great idea as well. Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coker?
Aye.
Thank you. For item F, I'm gonna pass the gavel to Ms. Coco to preside over the meeting for item F.
Item F, treasurer's business, Ms. Stokely?
Yes. I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education approve the following resolutions to authorize the filing of an original tax valuation complaint against property tax or against property for tax year 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments?
Just as you know that this is the new practice with the recent law changes that I talk about most of the time during our forecast. These are ones that we would have typically all done in the past and done, but now it's required that it goes before the board for an official vote.
Mr. Craig, could you call the roll?
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Abstain.
Item number 2, treasurer CFO's comments.
I do not have anything this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Coco. Item G is Superintendent CO's business, consent agenda, Dr. Selico.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve all items listed in the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Carrie. Dr. Selico?
Yes, thank you. We have some routine personnel items. We do have one retirement of Ms. Benner at the high school. We also have the proposal from Wright Engineering, and that is to look at the scope of work for the Price and Preston HVAC upgrades. And the parent contract is for the parking lot we've been talking about to expand the green space that we have now, convert it, to a parking area for our buses and staff as we expand and need more buses for our new campus. We also have transportation for a special needs student. We have a rental agreement that you will now be considering. We've revised that process, so that is there. And then we have the Washington DC trip from April 26th through the 28th, and that's through the traveling classrooms, as you are probably aware, since we do that every year, and a great opportunity for our students.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Just want to say welcome back to Miss Sandy Erb, and as well, happy to see Linda Ferreira coming out of retirement for a little bit to long-term sub at Bullock Middle School. We were sad when she retired, so happy that she is filling a little gap there for us. She's a wonderful person. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Item H, Superintendent CO's business. Your comments, Dr. Selka.
Thank you. Well, since we had a board meeting last week, not too much to report other than good news, which is our Saturday event was great. Our Culture of Caring Expo with the work done from our strategic plan committee under the leadership of Ms. Stewart was a very nice event, and thank you to all of our vendors and our students who were there to help with that, and our staff volunteers as well. Our literacy night was Monday. I also saw a couple of you there, and that was so fun, the camping theme. I loved it. And great work to our literacy team who put that on. So really 2 great events in 1 week's time. And lastly, I just want to mention to the board for March 19th is the day that I had mentioned our professional development. We will be viewing the movie of American Son on March 19th in the auditorium from 1 to 3, if anyone would care to join us. I will be sort of setting the stage, saying a few remarks before the movie, and then after the movie, kind of preparing them for some dialogue.
What's the date?
March 19th.
March 19th, okay.
In the auditorium, 1 to 3.
What's the movie again?
American Son. It's on Netflix.
Is it S-O-N or S-U-N?
S-O-N.
Okay. I will try to watch. I can't come,
Yeah.
but I will watch it anyway to try to join in as best I can.
Great.
And are there questions you can send us to
Sure.
reflect on if we can't attend?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
Yep.
if we can't make it, we can try to participate as best we can.
Great. We'll do some kind of turn and talk, probably some little dialogue after the movie briefly, but then on April 8th is when we'll really delve into those questions. And then lastly, as I said, I wear lots of hats. I'm going to put my attorney hat on, and I feel like I need to make some closing remarks regarding just want to revisit really quickly one more thing I wanted to add about the presentation this evening. One of the things that we find when we were exploring the leasing option was that we are confined to Cuyahoga Falls or Silver Lake, where our board office could be. And so in all of it, when we've been researching, there were 2 spaces available that would, that we could consider, and the other one was just as large as, well, I think it was 30,000 plus, and the cost was much more. So, these are like the 2 options if we were going to explore that. And then, I know that, I just wanna say that I know the board has really done their due diligence in, always asking your questions, seeking information, asking for data. You took the time to visit the site yourselves. You're very thoughtful in your decision-making, which I can appreciate. It creates a little bit more work for me, but that's what you're there for, and that's what I'm here for. So, I do appreciate your thoughtfulness, and would just appreciate, some direction eventually, maybe through the board president, of next steps, because I know they're kind of waiting on us to at least follow up with some direction. So, and again, I do appreciate the opportunity.
Well, in terms of sunshine law, they can't send their opinions to me.
Right.
So
Right.
they would have to send them to you,
Yes,
because I
okay.
can't collect their
Yes.
opinions on a matter pending before the board.
Sure, right. So you can share those with me, but I didn't know if you wanted me, you and I can have further
Yeah.
conversation. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Dr. Salka. Item I, board business. Number 1 is a memorandum of understanding, Ohio Association of Public School Employees. It's recommended the Board of Education approves the memorandum of understanding with the Ohio Association of Public School Employees and the Cuyahoga Falls City School District regarding the 2023-2024 stipend payments, Article 5, Section K.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
This is just a clarification, those stipend payments, that were negotiated for all 3 unions. Just the language that was put into, OPSI did not meet SERS's, requirements to consider it as salary, which was always the intent, so it's supposed to be considered as salary in lieu of a, higher percentage, base increase. We obviously took retirement from them, and then when that got submitted and went through, they questioned it. I talked to them, and basically it was just, you're gonna have to get an MOU, so, here we are. In order to change that, so it's very clear that was, what we intended, and that was its purpose, and that, it will count, and we won't be taking it back and redoing all of that, so, that is all.
Questions or comments from the board? Just state, in addition to what Ms. Stoikoi stated, just state this is not any additional money being dispersed. The money's actually already been dispersed. It's just a clarification of how the money was dispersed for our community. Okay. Please call the roll.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 2 is future agenda items. Do you have any additional future agenda items to come before the board at this time? Okay, thank you. Number 3 is committee reports. I don't think many met since last week. Does anyone have a committee report since last week? Easy enough. Number 4 is comments. Mrs. Schaefer.
Well, I was finally out and about and got to attend a couple great events this week. The Culture Caring event at the natatorium on Saturday. Great event. I wasn't 100% sure what to expect since that's the first time that we have done that. So, I probably sound like a broken record. Every time I go to these events and there are students that are like manning the tables and speaking to the JOQ public that's coming around, they've been so excited to talk to adults, which I absolutely love. And it's so refreshing because you think I'm going to, there's student, these kids going to be talking to people, and how is that going to go? It went great. They were very excited to speak to us, tell us what they're doing, what their plans are for their clubs and everything. I had a great time. And then the literacy event, I was there for quite a while, and I got to go to all the stations, and I did not go to them in order, and I missed when we were building the tents with the marshmallows, there was material to go over them, so I made mine into a catapult, and it was only marginally functional, but I had a good time. The kids were very excited to be in the camping room with the books and the flashlights. Yeah, I had a great time, and our Stripes was there, and
With his name tag.
with, with the name tag, yes. So we all knew Stripes' name, and was just, Stripes did have to help me with my phone a couple times when I was trying to extend my arm long enough to take a selfie with Stripes. Stripes did show me how to use the point 5 feature on my iPhone. So thank you so much, Stripes, for the continued education.
Stripes can truly do it all.
Stripes can do it all. All. So thank you so much, Stripes. And that's all I
Paz
have.
is older, so he's not as good on a cell phone.
Yeah.
Just to put that out there for everyone. Paz is not as good on the cell phone. Ms. White.
Well, I have very sad news. Yesterday, Mrs. Becky Wilkins passed away.
Oh.
She was a music teacher at the high school. She directed a cappella and M&Ms. And I think she really made M&Ms into the most wonderful show choir.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just highly viewed and rated in the whole area. So she was a workhorse. I mean, she made the kids really work. But she really produced some magnificent M&M shows and a cappella. We'll miss her greatly, and our condolences go out to her family. Yeah.
Miss
Good
White,
friend.
I would call her an icon.
She was, really. Yeah, she really was. Because M&M's was just a little singing group. I mean, they were good,
Yeah.
but not like she had made
Really?
it, you know.
I got the pleasure of being instrumentalist for M&Ms
Yeah,
when I was here.
my son did too.
And I
yeah.
also got the pleasure of being a glitter sprayer for the performers.
She was.
She had great ideas.
She did.
Yeah.
I mean, those shows were from beginning to the end, everything connected, and it was beautiful. Some of the sets, just amazing. It's hard to lose somebody. But at any rate, again, our condolences to Mr. Wilkins, who was also a teacher at Bullock, her husband, so, and her family, of course. I don't know why I get these sad. I don't know. But anyway, I do have an article that I really liked. It's student mental health and what's autonomy got to do with it. You know, I could probably put that to music, maybe.
I sang it in my head.
Oh my. But at any rate, let me find where I begin here. Okay. We need to look at what students need to be well at school practices that add or reduce stress and compromise or promote wellness. Instead of worrying about, we need to worry about their stress and anxiety and so on, but let's look at making them well and what would help. What students need to be well. Self-determination theory identifies 3 basic human needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness, that feeling of being connected to others. Autonomy, having a sense of control, is the most important of the 3. In fact, according to psychologists, autonomy is the antidote to stress. There are 4 shifts that schools need to make. And I know you can't probably do all of these things, but we could do some. These practices prioritize student autonomy, reduce student stress by meeting a basic psychological need, and support student mental health. Number 1, shift from teacher-prescribed learning to student-designed learning. As a teacher once said, "I've never heard of a child not doing his work. It's our work he's not doing." So how can schools increase student autonomy? To begin with, students need to understand teacher-prescribed learning goals. Moreover, the teacher should give them some choice in how they want to learn and how they want to demonstrate that learning. Students might choose from a menu of teacher-created options. Oops, I skipped. Oh, I know. Here's my, fell out, I'm sorry. Okay, so step 2, also we need to let students decide whether to work alone, with a partner, or in a group. Students may also set their own learning goals for content they're interested in that relates to teachers' goals. Shift 2, from traditional grading and assessment practices to student autonomy in grading and assessment. In a recent survey, high school students were asked to rate their biggest source of stress. Grades, tests, and other assessments top the list. This is not surprising given the fact that traditional grading practices leave students with limited control over their grades. When students lack the power to improve a poor grade, low grades live on forever. And if the teacher averages them, they continue to drive down other grades. But several remedies are available, and these are known as standard-based grading, also called grading for learning or equitable grading practices. Teachers can give students more control over their grades and reduce grading and assessment stress by doing some or all of the following. Grade less, provide more feedback on assignments, use non-punitive formative assessments such as no-count practice tests, enable students to improve their grade by offering them multiple opportunities to demonstrate learning. These might include formative assessments, retakes, or revisions. Instead of averaging an old grade with the newest evidence of learning, replace it with the new grade. Okay. And the third thing is we can do is to, I'm lost, I'm sorry, lost my page here. Shift, sorry about that. Okay. Consider alternatives to traditional paper and pencil tests such as performance tasks, reports, projects, or presentations. Be flexible about the timing of in-class assessments. If many students indicate they need more time to prepare, consider delaying the assessment, providing additional formative feedback, or reteaching a concept. Be responsive to student concerns about the amount of work due in other classes, and consider providing what one teacher called soft deadlines. Coordinate exam and project due dates by having multiple teachers use a common calendar. Shift 3, from teacher-assigned homework to student-designed homework. 2 shifts in homework practice can greatly relieve student stress levels. Using homework to give students ungraded feedback and giving students ownership of tasks. Instead of being responsible for working, students become responsible for learning. On the basis of teacher feedback, students self-assess which tasks they need to do to demonstrate mastery, and then they decide which methods are the most effective for them to do so. Student-designed homework frees students to design the task that fits the goal and aligns with their learning preferences. Shift 4, from tightly prescribed schedules to the gift of time. And this one's really hard to do because the day is the day and the periods, which is why some schools went to block schedule, but I think we tried that and it didn't work very well. But there are a few things that we could think about doing, like extend passing times. Extending passing time between classes from the typical to 3 to 5 minutes to 8 to 10 can be a real game changer. It helps students feel less rush, gives them time to say hello, use the restroom, etc. Administrators report that making this simple change has reduced stress levels for both students and teachers, as well as a number of tardies. And the other ones, I don't think we can really do. It's creating a block schedule and creating lunch times, which we do. We schedule lunch times. So we already do that. Autonomy, it's a big part of mental health. Research has shown that although feeling connected at school is a strong protective factor for student mental health, in a recent survey, only 26% of high school students said they felt connected to their teachers. When you change how students experience learning, and this experience does change when students have more autonomy, it also improves the teacher-student relationship. That relationship moves from transactional. Have you completed the required task? To supportive, how can I help you reach your goal? More robust connections between teacher and student ultimately provide the mental health support that students need. So I just found that extremely interesting. And I am a big proponent of course, students writing and making their own goals and self-assessment. So I just thought that was very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. White. Ms. Coco?
Yes, I just wanted to comment real quick on, say thank you to Ms. Stewart for the Culture of Caring Expo on Saturday. It was just an absolutely amazing event, and I hope it's something that happens every year. I especially loved, and I spent a lot of time at the tables for students who have different abilities. As someone who has a son on the spectrum, I really appreciated that that was well represented for support, and it wasn't just support for where your student might be now, but there was a lot of support for students as they age out of the, 18 and up, which as a parent with a student, when they're young, I know that's always a huge fear, what's gonna happen on the other side. So I really appreciated that, and just that I think as a parent walking in, I have 4 very different kids, and there was definitely support that I would have found there for any of my kids. And for families, whether it was a food insecurity or they had a student that needed extra support for their disabilities, or EL support, or they want to know that their student is safe as part of the LGBTQ plus community, those were all represented. And so I just want to say thank you for putting that together. And my middle school daughter, I think, took more than her share of swag home, and I apologize for that. But, and her friend, but they had a great time too, so.
Thank you. I didn't know that safari hats are cool again, but they were like a hot commodity. The high school kids were like about to fight over them. Safari hats are apparently very in, so I learned that on Saturday as well. I don't know. I'm sure Faith is styling hers or tie-dye.
She took a ball cap, and she has quite the flare that is now buttoned all over the front of her backpack. She took a lot of flair.
Probably learned to tie-dye it with lilacs or something. Knowing Faith.
And she did get a tattoo as well. She got a tattoo. Yes.
Yeah, it was a great Culture of Caring event. I like Ms. Coco, talked to all the vendors, thanked them for coming, and they were very impressed by the turnout, as well as some of them that weren't as familiar with our district were specifically told me that they were impressed by what our district has to offer, and that's just the best compliment you can get. So that should make us all feel very proud of what we do every day. And then the literacy event, phenomenal as well. And I got this postcard in the mail from the 5-1 class at Preston.
It's so cute.
And it was so cute. It's a mural of cats building a birdhouse. And it just said, "Have a great day," and they all signed it. And just delightful. So thank you to the 5-1 class at Preston. And I'm gathering that other board members got one as well. And then I just want to say it's Inclusion Month, and Monday was Inclusion Day, and it's just a good time to mention and thank again Mrs. Zeman for all the work she has been doing with her team, especially this year, to make sure that our students of different abilities feel welcomed, valued, and needed in our district, and that their families know that they are important members of our community. So thank you as well. Mr. Harris.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I was able to attend the swearing in of the new police chief for Cuyahoga Falls, Mr. Chris Norfolk, on Friday. Congratulations to him, and we are looking forward to that continued partnership with the department. Ms. Stewart, fantastic job Saturday. I was glad I could swing by for a few. We too got a lot of swag to go. It's so funny to tell this story. My wife Alicia left the hat Mr. Gomez mentioned on the back of our seat in the car, and I'm sitting, like, there's somebody in our car, honey. I'm going out there with a flashlight, like I'm going to do something. But that was fun. And then I also want to give a shout out to the class of 1974, who I encountered when my family was visiting from Zanesville. We were at Rocco's because they don't serve chicken and JoJo's with pizza down in Zanesville. So It's like a thing when they come up here. We were sitting there and they were having their meeting, their class meeting, and it kept getting bigger and bigger. They were adding tables and adding tables. And then to top it all off, Mr. Chapity stopped in. I got to see him and we got to catch up a little bit. So got great work on their part. They have a really good organization there. I'm looking forward to hearing about this event you all are planning. So, but that's all I have.
Thank you. Item J is an executive session. Pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G1 is hereby moved the board adjourn to executive session, consider the employment and discipline of a public employee or official.
A second.
There will be no action after executive session, so after we vote and enter, we will stop the recording. Ms. Stoikoi, please call the roll.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
We are entering executive session at 7:26 PM.